Okay, we're going to do an assessment of the opinions from the latest FOMC meeting, Federal Open Market Committee. Okay, so we're going to first take a look at Janet Yellen, the Federal Reserve Board Chair. Her stance is, she says, the appropriate stance of policy is now closer to, let me call it, neutral, she said. She expects the economy to continue to grow at a moderate pace and that gradual interest rate increases can get us where we need to be, she says. Which is, to me, that whole statement is just absolute balderdash. Okay, but that's what her statement was. So now let's move on to the next Federal Open Market Committee moron. Oh, I'm just joking. Okay, so the next member of the Federal Open Market Committee that we will that we'll look at is William Dudley, of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York president. Dudley said, 3 interest rate hikes in 2017 is a reasonable projection, and that the central bank may also begin shrinking its balance sheet later this year, or in 2018, possibly pausing rate increases in the process. So they're planning on shrinking their balance sheet, and he's all for that. Okay, so now let's take a look at Lael Brainard. She looks like she's a young member of the FOMC. She's a Federal Reserve Board governor. She makes no comments. It says about her, though, it says she's a noted dove who nevertheless supported the last rate hike. Okay, so she's just going along with the rest. Okay, so now Charles Evans, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago president. He says progress toward the dual mandate justifies the 2 latest rate hikes. Evans said his outlook is roughly consistent with the median projections, and he would support another 1 or 2 increases this year. Okay, now, what about Stanley Fischer? He's the Federal Reserve Board Vice Chair. He says, when asked if 2 more rate increases were still the expectation, Fischer said, we're feeling that way. So far, we haven't had anything to change that. In other words, he's for 2 more rate hikes this year. Now, Patrick Harker, the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia president. He says, 3 rate hikes appear to remain appropriate. Oh, don't you just love the elites? Don't you just love the oligarchs and don't you just love the way they talk when they use appropriate? Everything is either inappropriate or appropriate. 3 rate hikes appear to remain appropriate for this year, Harker said, although he added they can be spread out. Robert S. Kaplan, Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas president. He says, 3 rate hikes remain a good baseline, although depending on the economy, more or fewer increases may be appropriate, he says. Appropriate again. Oh, I just, appropriate. Anyway, let's move on. Neil Kashkara, the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis president. Well, this guy, he's a little bit different than your normal. I can just tell by looking at him, he's a little bit different than the other guys. He's not quite the norm. He's a little bit different. Look at the picture of him here. Huh. Even his name's a little bit different. Neel. I guess that's Neil or Nell. He says, this is what he says. He says, I dissented. In other words, he's not going along with all the others. He says, I dissented because the key data I look at to assess how close we are to a meeting of our dual mandate, the goals haven't changed that much since our prior meeting. He said, we are still coming up short in our inflation target. And the job market continues to strengthen, suggesting that a slack remains. So, this guy is probably a dissenting vote to the others, but because they outnumber him, then they can bamboozle him into doing what they want him to do. Simply put, so he has to go along with them because they can outvote him. Okay, Jerome H. Powell, Federal Reserve Board Governor. No recent comments. In other words, he's growing along with the herd. Powell supported the latest rate hike, and so he'll probably support more. So that's as simple as that. So there's the bunch of them. That's the crew of the Federal Reserve, and that's their standing on what they all think, each and every one of them, about rate hikes. And you can see that they're on a tear right now, and they're following the chief and commander, and they're all heading for the rate hikes. The chief and commander being Janet Yellen. They're all following in line, except for one of them is this dissenting, and he is not going to get very far because all the rest are going to vote against him, and they'll all vote for what they want to do anyway. So that's it for that. And you can see which way they're headed. They're all headed for 2 more rate hikes this year. And if you don't think they're going to do it, you better think twice, buddy. They're going to do it. They're going to have 2 more rate hikes this year. And they're going to start selling their dirty, toxic assets into the market. So I think, I think what we're heading toward is trouble. Trouble's coming up. Because I don't think they're going to get away with they might get. I don't know how far they're going to get away with it, but I can't see them. They can't normalize rates. I can tell you that right now. They'll bust everything all to pieces. So anyway, we'll see you in the next article. Like and subscribe, and bye for now.